If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
All right, so then let's get started. So before we begin, a quick introduction, because I would like to know the job roles and profiles and your expectations from this training from each of the participants. So I'll start. My name is Anil. I come with around 16 years of industry experience. I've been instrumental in implementing various supply chain technologies that includes APO, IBP, PPDS, ePPDS, and so on. Right. I have been fortunate to implement as well as support multiple projects in multiple industry domains like heavy engineering, MS, FMCG, chemical, and so on. Yeah. The training approach that I prefer, and we would be going with this training approach, is it's a combination of theoretical and practical both together. Because if you just go through theory, it won't help you to understand the concepts, and just you will have to also create your own scenario. So this entire training would be placed in a way that we would start with setting up basics, then doing the proper implementation in a way that it would happen in actual project, and finally we would be able to see the results of the scheduling. Okay, so all of us would be selecting some sort of master data and then taking it ahead, but more details to follow. So let us go over the course curriculum so that you know what are we going to learn. But let me walk you through what are we going to learn throughout this training. Okay, so this training is actually placed or divided into 5 different modules. Okay, so the first module is introduction and course overview. Don't pay attention to the duration that is here, because when we are in a flow, you may not be able to exactly follow point 0.5 or 1 and so on, but that's an approximate indication for all of us that we have to move on to the next topic. So don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to this course content. Okay, so first of all, we will spend substantial amount of time in understanding the PPDS. What is PPDS and what is the role of PPDS in a supply chain planning? I'm glad that all of you, most of you, have diverse experience into other supply chain technologies. Some of you have APO, SNPDP, some of you have IBP. All of you must be knowing about what IBP and APO other modules are. So that really helps, because these things, these different modules do not work in silos. Okay, they work in conjunction with each other. So when you say a supply chain project, it includes everything from raw material procurement to finished good production, scheduling at the shop floor level. So all that end-to-end cycle is what is part of your supply chain planning, and that is why you should know the role of PPDS in a supply chain planning. So we have to spend actually considerable amount of time out there to understand the meaning of it. Okay, then most important part is we have to spend a lot of time into setting up some master data. As I said, this is going to be a practical training session, right? So each one of you will be selecting one product or will be creating one product on our own in the system, right? And then right from creating that product into S4, because now we have got S4, and I'll talk about it, the difference between a S4 PPDS and a APO PPDS. But then we have got a S4 system here, because that's what every client is now implementing. So we will set up some data into S4 system, integrate it to PPDS system, do that scheduling and planning and whatnot on that, and then send back the results. Okay, so what results, that part would be clarified here, right? What is the input and what is the output of PPDS? But the base, the fundamental, the basics of creating that plan or schedule is the master data overview. And we have to actually, every one of you, and I will not proceed until each one of you shows me what data you selected and created in the system. And it's pretty easy. Okay, and the integration as well, right? So uh, first initial couple of sessions will be spending time on understanding setting up master data. Okay, then we will go on, and once the master data is set up, we will find out, okay, what type of demands the PPDS can follow, right? Because as I said, PPDS is part of a supply chain planning system. Correct, supply chain planning system. So that does not only include your production order or a process order and then scheduling it. It includes everything, because the production order cannot be created unless there is some demand in the back end. Correct, on that demand, you cannot just start producing unless you have a raw material for that. You cannot have a raw material unless you plan the raw material at least 4 to 5 months ahead, right? Because you have to give sufficient time to your vendors to produce it and transport it and store it at your location. So all those things are part of the demand management. So we will understand what sort of demands go. Okay, and we will also understand about some make to stock, make to order strategies that are there at the location product master, correct? The way any particular production order can be produced against a sales order or against the forecast and whatnot. Okay, so we have set up master data, we now have demand. Okay, then we go into production planning module. Okay, so PPDS, anybody knows long form of PPDS? Can someone tell me?
Yeah. Production planning and detail scheduling, right?
Details. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So basically, there are two parts in the PPDS. Just like if you go to SNP, okay, so SNP says supply network planning. If you go to IBP, it says integrated business planning. So the word planning is there, correct? Similarly, production planning
Yeah.
word is here and then detail scheduling. So this module, this PPDS module is actually planning as well as scheduling. You can do both the things there. Okay, so planning means what, scheduling means what, we will see and we will understand what is it here. Okay, sorry, here in the unit number 3 production planning module, right? But at many times I will also explain to you that in general PPDS may not be used for planning, only used for detailed scheduling. That's also possible. Okay, we should know because the input for PPDS is coming from other planning modules like IBP or SNP, right, or any other module as well. So PPDS can be used for detailed scheduling also, correct? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. So we will understand about how you can do production planning, one how it can utilize. In fact, I will combine both these models together, right? Production planning followed by the detailed scheduling. Okay, so we would understand the significance of master data settings that would impact your production planning. We would understand what detailed scheduling is. Now I'm moving on to the next step. So once the planning is done, we go into detailed scheduling. So what is the business meaning of detailed scheduling? Okay, always, my advice from day one to you would be always try to apply a design thinking principle. So whatever you do, and design thinking means that you should always think from the end user perspective. Don't think from a consultant or a technological support person perspective. Okay, that's the problem with most of us, that we always think that okay, I am a technical consultant, so or I am a consultant, so we always try to think from the tool perspective, but always think from a user perspective. And the moment you start thinking from user perspective, you would start creating the applications or whatever you are doing as part of your consulting responsibilities. They will be always from a end user usage perspective, and then you will realize that the end user for all these things are the manufacturing or the shop floor guys. They do not have to go in too much details of too many complications. They want simplistic thing, but whatever they want should make a logical sense. The moment you realize it, that I am creating something, it has to make a logical sense to that guy, you would create the best possible solutions, best possible consulting outcomes out of you, right? So we will see this. Okay, I mean, in a layman's language, what do I mean is, you say that okay, I have to run a scheduling, I have to run a planning, I have to run a scheduling. Okay, so many people just talk, okay, go and click here and this is the heuristic, that and that is the outcome, the plan order, and then you click on this button and then it would do a scheduling. No, it doesn't work that way. You should think it like, okay, how do I most efficiently utilize my resources? So what does it actually mean while I say that utilization of the resources at the shop floor? Okay, so more of it is coming soon while we enter into this unit 3 and 4. Okay, so there we would understand the various methods, various influencers on the PPDS planning and scheduling. Okay, and then we would move on to the module number 5. Okay, so module number 5 is about tools of the production planning and detailed scheduling. Okay, just wording I would modify it. This should be tools for production planning and detailed scheduling. Okay, so what does it mean is uh, SAP out of the box brings up some of the tools and reports that are coming from PPDS. Okay, so the most important tool most of you must have seen is detailed scheduling planning board, where the shop floor guys are actually doing a detailed scheduling. Okay, so similarly there are product planning table, resource planning table, and so on and so on. So we don't have to create some reports on our own. Okay, it's a short term thing, right? PPDS is always going around 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks horizon. So that's where we have to most efficiently utilize these tools, and this again connects back to the design thinking approach, because if you do not give something meaningful to the end user, that okay, just go and look here and this is what would pinpoint you. Okay, I have to take an action on one resource, don't have to take an action on other resource, and so on. You won't be able to make sense of the results, right? And that's where these tools and their detailed understanding comes into play. Okay, so we will go over some of the tools. A small disclaimer is some of these tools I would already be touching upon in the previous sections, because we cannot actually do the detailed scheduling unless we go into the detailed scheduling board, right? We have to go to RRP3, RRP4, and so on. So all those reports also will be touching, but again there will be a refresher here. On top of that, some of the additional reports. Okay, and then once this is done, we will have some additional topics like the master recipe and configuration, and so on and so on. There will be some surprise test in between for all of you, right? So my only advice to you is set up data on your own the way we progress. Okay, so if you cannot do it here, try to do it here, but I don't recommend it 100% because I don't want your attention to be diverted somewhere else. Okay, but since you are working into PPDS project, you have that additional privilege that you know multiple things already, right? So that would be an advantage, so that we can fast forward, try to fast forward things. Okay, so we would have to set up a data and then subsequently take it to PPDS, check out the configuration, check out the settings, and then do the planning and scheduling and so on. Okay, right. So any question till now? Be on unmute. Don't worry, even if would be some sort of noise, I'm okay with that. But then be talkative. Keep giving me feedback. If something additional you want to talk about, please let me know. Right?
Sure.
Sure.
All right.
We are good to
Great.
start.
All right. Okay. So we will start with the first module. Okay. And this module, on today's session, we would be mostly focusing on the introduction of PPDS. Okay, introduction of how PPDS is used. Okay, and that also includes the combination or connection between PPDS and other supply chain modules and so on. Okay,
Yes.
right. So just a moment. Okay. All right. So what to expect from this training? Not only from this module, but entirely from from all the 5 modules and this training of 30 plus hours. Okay. We would understand the PPDS planning and scheduling. Pay attention, planning and scheduling again, right? You would be able to put up the requirements for PPDS. Okay, what does it mean is, as a functional consultant, if you want to say implement something, enhance something, those I would call as putting up the requirements for designing, developing something. Or say you are facing a new project where a client is giving you some requirements, you want to understand him, understand what is his expectation from the production planning detail scheduling model. So those sort of things you would be easily able to face, because if you know the big picture of what happens, right, you are able to face that level of meeting. Okay, with the customer, the first initial level of meeting, because that's where the people come up with their own requirements about their expectations from the tool. Correct. And then what we do is actually the third stage. We do the setup and configuration, because somebody would have captured the requirements, somebody would prepare a blueprint document based on that, and then finally the consultant would go and do the configuration. So you would be able to do both the things actually, because big picture is important. You would be able to manage the PPDS master data. Of course, you may have seen this in bits and pieces or in sequence, but this is the time we would go through it from left to right, right? Be able to do the error handling and root cause analysis. So there could be multiple things, right? Why the job has failed, why the queue has failed, okay, why my capacity is lesser, what is the problem with my PDS, and so on. Correct. You'll be able to request your enhancements, and ultimately you would be able to use the PPDS more effectively, efficiently also, right? That's the thing. Okay. Yeah. So I've spoken about it in general, right? But then PPDS is the PPDS module is something that is used for both, right? It is used to generate the procurement proposal, also to meet the production requirement, as well as it is able to do a resource level production plan. Okay, so because every one of us know about it, this is okay to know. Okay, because what does planning mean? Can anybody tell me? Yeah, before I explain this, can anybody tell me what would be the difference, or what is the planning? Okay, when you say IBP, integrated business planning, SNP, network planning, and PP, production planning, what does a planning mean here? What happens in the planning? Anybody? Just try.
Yeah, like planning in a sense, we would be like, like forecasting for the, I mean, future demand, like how much it could be. Yeah. Yeah. Like for the PPDS space, especially, I mean, we are trying to do the production planning, like in a way from, I mean, seconds to the, I mean, till like 2 to 3 weeks of planning, we'll be doing that. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Okay, so that is good. I will just take you through some of the planning things. Okay. Okay. So all these things, you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So all these things are planning. This is demand planning. This is supply network planning. This is integrated business planning. This is production planning. This is enterprise, sorry, resource planning. And this is
Material
requirement planning,
requirements.
right?
Yeah.
So all these are different types of plannings. Okay. There are various tools available to do these plannings in the market as of today. Okay. All these are the first step, correct? Because demand planning is little separate than all these different plannings, because what demand planning does is the prerequisite. So once you have a planning of the demand, then you feed into these ones. Now here, these are different names for kind of doing the similar thing, right? Because what you do in supply network planning is you plan the supplies across the network. First of all, right? What is a network? There is a distribution center which sends the demand to your production planning location, or secondary distribution center sending to primary distribution center, sending to production planning, and so on, correct? So this is a network, and then to plan this network we do a supply network planning, correct, based on the demand planning. So this is input, and this is the demand is an input to supply network planning. When you say integrated business planning, so this is just an advanced version of SNP, because what we do here in SNP, it used to be like, okay, you did the planning at once and then you have to wait for next day or next week so that you do the planning again, because the integration was not so tight with other modules and so on, correct? Even between the modules also, once you release the demand to supply, and then you have to wait for the next time the release happens and so on, so there was some sort of lags, correct? And the simulation was very difficult previously, correct? Because in the SNP you could not do on the fly simulations, because the planning itself would take very long time. So SAP came up with this concept called integrated business planning, where everything is so tightly integrated that you can on the fly do simulations and whatnot, correct? So both of them do almost similar thing, correct? Then it comes to production planning. So basically I would little bit separate it out. Sorry. Oops. So this production planning, I would call it that this sits as a next step after both these things. Okay. Why so? It's because the way the application is used, and what I say is not 100% as it is. There are various possibilities of combining things. Okay. So what does it mean is, you first of all did a supply network planning or integrated business planning, then you feed that outcome into production planning, so that production planning is happening at the plant level, okay, wherever the manufacturing is happening, and at that location level, uh, multiple additional constraints appearing. For example, you have resource constraint, you have the raw material constraint, you have your labor constraint, correct? And then you have machine breakdowns and on. So this is more of an execution side of it. That is why these guys do a rough level planning, okay, just rough level indicative planning for next so and so horizon. but this guy does more of a close to reality planning, more of a execution level planning. Correct. So it would just pick up the plan from all any one of these, and then it would convert into more of a realistic one. That is why the master data required for production planning is also little bit detailed one. Correct. So just as a concept, understand this. Okay. So you got the difference, right? Similarly ERP and MRP also. So basically before SNP or IBP came into picture, initially our software itself we used to call as ERP 6.0 and so on. So that software, I mean, it's a predecessor of SAP S4HANA that we used to call as ECC or ERP. And the by concept ERP means enterprise resource planning. So ultimately you're doing a planning at the entire enterprise level for all the resources. That would include your transportation, your storage, your manufacturing, and so on and so on. Correct. And similar concept is for material requirement planning. So the terminologies have minor differences between each other, but then ultimately we use them for the same purpose. Material requirement planning would also do the same thing, that okay, you plan demand somewhere in the future, 6 months down the line. Now how much raw material would be required for that at that time, so I can already put the orders and so on. So this is an advanced planning thing. Correct. All of them are advanced planning things. Correct. And then we would go into PP. Correct. Once this is done, then comes the DS. Correct. Okay. Right. So you should know this concept. Okay. Once you know things in by fundamental concepts, then your need of being technology agnostic would go away. Right. So once you know the concepts, then I have to also explain you at some point in time that what are the other softwares that can be used as a replacement, but I'm not recommending you to go that direction. Learn about the PPDS concepts, and then also know about what happens outside, so that because the integrations are becoming so tight these days that I have seen customers using multiple software tools together tightly integrated. They might be using say O9 software for doing this and PPDS for doing that, and both of them are working fine. Correct. It is possible. Or they might be using the APO or IBP for doing the previous things, and for the next thing they might be using a Kinaxis software. The concept remains the same. There will also be a detailed scheduling board out there, but if you know the fundamentals, it is helpful. Right. Okay. Any question? Guys, be talkative.
No,
I hope all of you are at home, right? Or in office.
we are at home.
Okay. So please pay attention. Nobody is there, so you should not look here and there. I would say 3 hours of tight attention here in the call, and then 1.5 hours of self study or self practice somewhere during the day would be really helpful. So you don't have to carry this training outside those 30-35 hours. Okay. This is the biggest
Yeah.
mistake that we do, that okay, I do have materials and I do have the recordings and so on. So sometimes we feel that okay, even if I don't pay attention, I will look at that later. So this is like carrying a burden from today to tomorrow. Don't do that. As much as possible, of course, recordings you can use later just to refresh, but right now if you pay attention, that would be really helpful. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So on the screen, okay, what is shown is again the connection of different supply chain planning modules. The colors are real little distracted. So what does it mean is by old and new, because you never know, you might be supporting the old way of PPDS and the new way of PPDS. By the way, all of you are into that project. Is it a S4HANA based PPDS or APO based PPDS?
APO based PPDS.
APO based PPDS. Okay. So fundamental concepts are similar. The integration differs. Okay. And let me know from time to time if you want to, if you have any doubts, and I am just passing superficially over the APO related integration. I can spend some time in there also. But in this training session, we'll be focusing more from a S4HANA based integration. So you know the future. You already know the history. Correct. So see, APO, this is the APO model, APO box, okay, advanced planning and optimization. And you know that box comes out of the box with multiple modules in itself, correct? There is demand planning module, to do the demand planning. There is supply network planning module. Okay. Then there is PPDS module, production planning and detailed scheduling. There is GATP also. There is the TPVS module, transport planning and vehicle scheduling. I don't know if you have seen this. And there is SPP as well, service parts planning. Okay. So basically, why only these things are connected and this not is because SPP and APO, these are two separate things, right? In service parts planning, you just plan for your, the nuts and bolts. So usually useful. This model is very useful for, what do you say, the heavy engineering. You manufacture a truck or you manufacture an aircraft and so on. Such kind of industries usually use service parts all apart. Okay. And the APO consists of all these modules, right? You do demand, supply, production, GATP, and transport. Okay. Now, by now, you know about other modules, right? But then what happens in new? Okay. New means as SAP started migrating ERP to from ECC to S4HANA, they also started migrating all other modules to the new softwares. Okay. So demand planning has been migrated to integrated business planning, and some of you are using it, so you know very well. Correct. Okay.
Yes.
SNP is also migrated to integrated business planning, and in IBP there are modules, right? IBP demand is equivalent to this demand. Correct. Also IBP SNOP also has some sort of demand, but I'm not going into those details. Indicatively this says demand equal to demand. IBP supply or SNOP becomes, or SNP becomes IBP supply or SNOP. Transport vehicle and detailed scheduling is altogether taken out from APO, and now it is a different software, different box itself. That's called as transportation management, because this used to be a very much required concept, how to fill up your truck and so on while the POs are going away. So this is now a TM module available. Very interesting module, by the way. GATP. Now GATP has been migrated to S4HANA, and now we call it AATP. That is advanced available to planning. Concepts would be similar. Okay, in your free time, just read about it, because I heard two of you are already into GATP. So this is always a beneficial thing to know about advancements. Correct. And finally, the PPDS. PPDS is now on S4HANA, and we call it as ePPDS. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what differs here is this thing is the new software itself. Okay, new box itself, so no problem. But since S4HANA based PPDS is part of S4HANA itself, the integration has changed little bit. Integration has been so much simplified that you would be relieved in case you're facing a lot of queue issues. Okay, right. So this is again the same thing actually. Okay, by the way, any one of you can explain me what is live cache? Because we are using APO, you are using APO, correct? So can anybody tell me what is the live cache in APO?
A live cache is a real-time memory, like where the data stores in the form of structures and pattern, and not, uh, I mean to say, not at the system, in the system. It's like
Mhm.
a, you can say, I mean, like a cloud thing, but not on a cloud. But yeah, I mean, like we can access it in a very real, quick manner, like the way we have in our mobiles. So
Hmm. Okay, so conceptually you explained well. Anybody else want to try again? No mind. Uh, your concepts are great, by the way. Kshitiz. So see, before all these modules that I have been talking about, everywhere there is this word called planning. Correct. When we say planning, you have to process a lot of big data and then come out with some sort of outcome from that. Correct. You would have heard about this data model concept, right? The big data concept. Correct. Where they pick up lot of the big data and then do some sort of planning on top of it, forecasting and blah blah blah, and then that give you some meaningful outcome out of it. So to process this big chunk of data, it was the previous architecture of separate memory and separate processing unit sort of thing was very slow. Correct, because you cannot process millions of records or billions of records at once. Okay, so because all these modules are related to planning and they have to look at a lot of history. Okay, when we say demand planning, it has to look at a lot of huge history. Supply network planning, it has to look at next 2 years or 4 years of horizon. GATP is probably not so much planning thing. It would look at the actual sales orders part. But the production planning and detailed scheduling, even if it looks at a very small set like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 2 months, depending upon your client, it still has to look at up to second level data, PPDS up to second level data. So there are a lot of data pointers that all these modules will have to process. And for that, SAP came up with APO. It came up with this concept called live cache technology. So it is like a very layman's understanding. You have memory, you have processing unit, so they have combined both of them. So now in the memory itself, the processing happens. Okay, processing means the calculations. So previously, if you fire a select query, it would go to Oracle database, it will pick up that line, it will bring, it would do that whatever calculation you want to do in ABAP and send back the results and save there. So this picking up data, bringing, processing and saving back, etc. was taking time. Okay, there were a lot of limitations. So the live cache thing works in the memory itself. So you don't have to, the data is picked up, processed then and there itself and saved immediately. So it is like a in-memory computing technology. So in the memory itself, you are doing the computations, and that's what we call as live cache technology. The entire S4HANA thing is based on that. Okay, this is the S4HANA is extension of live cache, and that is why SAP markets it as it is the fastest thing in the um, processing side. Why? Because it doesn't have, it's a processing as well as it's a storage. Correct, you don't have to pick up data and take it somewhere else. So same live cache technology, it was there in APO. Now it is available with S4HANA suite also. Correct. At the bottom you would see the S4HANA platform. So on the platform itself, this PPDS thing is set up. Okay, even if PPDS is there, you still have to activate the live cache for PPDS. So because entire, as I said, the entire S4HANA itself is based on this technology, it doesn't mean that PPDS would be allocated it entirely. You will have to, set up some partition, or I mean, that's a basis thing. But then we still have to activate the live cache for that PPDS part and then use it. Correct. But as a concept, you should know what live cache is, and you knew it. It's good. Okay.
Yes.
So this is actually a end-to-end flow. Okay, and this is a very high level and pictorial, just as a the high level big picture for you to know that what happens in a supply chain planning. Okay, we are still in the introduction of PPDS phase, the module 1. Okay, but this is how in general any project would look like. Okay, when a client says you, okay, implement a supply chain planning for me, this is how the architecture would be. There can be various colors, features and variations in this for sure. Okay, but this is it. Anybody wants to give it a try to explain this? Or if it is difficult, I will jump on for sure, but anybody wants to give it a try based on your current project? Don't have to read through the entire diagram, because it starts from this part, it goes here and then goes to the right side. Okay. I'm calling it as a typical PPDS system design. When you go to discuss or sell PPDS to any customer, then this is where you start with. You have to explain to them that this is how the PPDS system works in general. These are some kind of questions, and the questions that you ask in such meetings to the customer, they are specially related to one of these models. Okay, what do you do here, what do you do there, and so on and so on. Okay, so anybody? Silence. Okay, okay, no worries, because the diagram looks complicated. But see, what happens is, first of all, you have got a ECC or S4HANA system. Correct, because you cannot do your executions unless and until you have an execution system, that is ECC or S4HANA system. Correct. Yeah. You might come across any other ECC or S/4HANA sort of ERP system also. Okay, because there could be, say, Oracle or Microsoft Dynamics. So all these are ERP systems, correct? SAP is the market leader, and that is why most of us, 90% people are using, or customers are using that system. But yes, there are competitions available. ECC S/4HANA competition. What is it? Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle, Fusion. Okay, you should at least know the names, because why I'm actually stressing for you to know and increase your knowledge horizon is because of this cloud thing. Competitors are rising. Okay, what happens is you have to say just do one particular task, say transportation management. Now somebody can write a code and then create a software out of it, and that is very easily possible to be integrated to any other ERP tool. So he would just offer that software on cloud to any client. Okay, so client says, okay, let me try it for 1 or 2 years, and he finds it very easy and he starts using it. So that is why you may come across some of the modules here which are, mixed of multiple uh, vendors. Okay, so at least you should know about the names. Okay, that helps all the time.
Yeah. Anil, I just want to ask you, like Oracle, I mean, that comes earlier than ERP, or that is a technology which came after ERP and got famous, and project started
So
implementing.
okay, Oracle ERP. So that question is little bit ambiguous the way you ask, because Oracle is a ERP and SAP is also ERP. Okay, so you
Oh,
trying to ask that whether Oracle came before SAP or what? Is that
yeah,
your
yes,
question?
yes, yes.
Okay. From timelines, I really don't know. From timelines
Mhm.
perspective, who came when? I think SAP came 30, 35 years, 40 years back, and it should be the older one than Oracle. But I know about one interesting thing in them. So what happened is Oracle as a database provider was very strong, is very strong rather in the market, right? So then they decided to get into ERP phase, ERP software domain. So they already had their Oracle Financials, the software which was a great market leader. Even it was better than SAP Finance module. Okay, SAP FI module, as I learned. Okay, so then what happened is they started acquiring the best companies in those phases. Say, for example, PeopleSoft was the market leader for HR. SAP HR was there, but PeopleSoft was better than that. Okay, so they acquired PeopleSoft. They had their own finance and some other tools also, which were best in the segment they acquired. Because some companies are master of something, but not jack of all. SAP had everything at once, right? When you say ECC or S/4HANA, it is the best thing at one package, correct? But Oracle started acquiring the best of best, okay, and then they combined all of them and they came up with the product called Oracle Fusion. It is still there in the market, Oracle Fusion
Yeah,
ERP software,
exactly. Yes,
right?
yes. Got
But then, I mean, I haven't seen it is becoming as popular as SAP because of compliance, and SAP has that strong presence. I don't want to get into why it did not become popular, but yeah. So with that logic, perhaps Oracle came later than SAP, I would say.
it.
SAP
Just
was earlier.
asked because
Yeah.
many of my friends and colleagues like they are into Oracle Fusion, and just wanted to know, like, is it something that like it's good, I mean, good than SAP ERP, or is it, yeah, okay, like it's
It is.
got it.
Yeah, so it depends on requirement. It is. I can tell you 100% that it is not as popular as SAP by now, but you never know. Okay, overnight success. This is the age of overnight success. So they might come up with some features, okay, and some easy possibilities. For example, integration is one of the difficult part. It used to be a difficult part with SAP, right?
Yes, yes.
Integration, because integration models and whatnot is there. Some customers offer it, they would just put up adapter on top of your software and it's easy to integrate, so that can be one of the game changer. Similarly, other part, and that's where SAP is lagging right now, but they are picking up fast, is open sourcing. None of these softwares are able to talk to outside models, outside things. Okay, that's what we call as extensibility, correct? But what I mean is, sorry. Okay, so what happens is these softwares are like input and output softwares. You provide input here, you get the output. What happens inside the box, you don't know. Correct? You can configure things to influence the planning, but you don't know what sort of logic is implemented. Correct? In multiple places. Okay. Or rather, you would know that, but you cannot influence that. You cannot modify that. So you cannot change the MRP logic that SAP has brought in. Correct? Or say forecasting logic. So they, uh, but many times because the big data enhancements and all, or even the advancement in technology like Python and all, people would like to process outside, correct, and bring the results back. Say you have a lot of demand history, you take it to some Python coding or R coding outside in cloud, you do the forecasting there and bring back the forecast because you have implemented a much advanced forecasting algorithm than it is available with SAP. It's possible. I don't say, and SAP brings the best, right, but not most advanced sometimes, right? Some customer may have too much detailed requirement to have a most advanced algorithm, correct? So with that logic, this is one place where SAP used to not provide any extensibility that you cannot pick up data from here and send outside. But with this S4HANA thing, it is becoming slowly possible because I think they develop some APIs on S4HANA. They take data, pick up data from here, send it outside. With IBP also with the new version, there will be extensibility features. What I read is in the Excel tool itself, you would have an extensibility option. So if you click there and connect it to say Python code or anything outside, I don't know how to run that, then it would pick up your demand history from Excel, IBP Excel, send to the Python code, process and bring back the result. So you don't run the operator, the heuristic operator or the forecasting operator that you would use in IBP, but you would do that outside. So that's where other softwares are ahead because they had nothing to lose, so they opened up for extensibility earlier than SAP, but SAP is slowly picking up. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Don't want
Sure.
to deviate much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah. No, we will pick up. I mean, it's better to ask the questions because I want to make this interactive and we will cover up things. Don't worry. Even if we divert for
Uh,
5 minutes here and
Sir, can you please explain this means chain like means picking some like object type?
there. This one, you mean the one on my screen?
Yes, yes. Means
Yeah, yeah.
if we suppose
Uh,
like phone iPhone, like
uh,
that much type of example.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, that was coming up next, but I will include that example here. Okay.
Thanks,
So
sir.
first of all, yeah. So first of all, you have an ECC or S4HANA system. Okay, this is your execution system, correct? So
Yes.
let's take an example of that iPhone itself. Okay, how that iPhone ERP would run and the execution to PPDS would run. Okay, so you have ECC S4HANA system. First of all, what you would do that, okay, you decided to bring up a new phone called iPhone. So you would create that as a material here, correct?
Yes.
iPhone is a material code that would be available, correct? Now, imagine that this iPhone 12 or it's 11 right now, right? So there will be 12 soon or 30. No, no, my bad. Sorry, I'm outdated. iPhone 15 would be
14.
coming up soon, correct?
Yes.
15 or 14, whatever. Okay,
Yes.
let's say iPhone 15 is coming up soon. So you created a code, iPhone code here. Okay, now what you need to produce that iPhone, you need a screen, you need a processor, and this and that, and that's thousands of components you need. Okay, you
Mm.
have a date of release of that iPhone of September 2024. Okay, for example, because the planning should happen at least an year advance. Okay, so to release that iPhone in September 2024, you would already need to tell your suppliers to provide all the components to you. Fine, that
Yes.
is one thing,
Yes.
because the component lead time itself is 6 months or 7 months. So they would give it to you, then you would assemble and put the iPhone and so on. That's one thing. Now, how
Yes.
much quantities you want to put the order to the suppliers for? You don't know, right? So for that, you need to do some forecasting that in December 25, I would need 1 million pieces. In December 24, I would need 2 million pieces and so on. So you would roughly need to know that how much order I need to put to my suppliers. Correct?
Yes.
That's another thing. Third one is you already need to know that, okay, this year I have included India as a market, and coincidentally they have included India as market this year itself. Correct. So you would need to know that, okay, whether I need to already send say 500,000 pieces to India already and then put it there as a safety stock or not. So in what month I need to send, or do I need to put an extra warehouse in South India and North India so that I can reduce the transportation time and so on. Correct. So you would already need to know that this is going to happen roughly, okay, down the line after 1 year or 2 year. So what I am talking about here is all the ERP, enterprise resource planning, okay, or supply chain planning, not ERP also. This is a supply chain planning because I am already thinking about the suppliers. Okay, I am already thinking about the customers, correct? Where to procure, whom to send, what time to send, what time to procure, and in what quantity. All those whats and wheres are here, correct? So with that example, what would happen is I created iPhone 15 as a new code in HANA, correct? But I don't know how much quantity of this would be sold somewhere in 24 and 25. So I need to know some sort of history for that, right? Then and then I can predict the future, because based on my sales history of last year, I can predict next year's forecast, correct? That would give me a rough idea about how much quantity would be sold. But here the phone is completely new, so I don't have a history. So what they do usually is, and a small diversion, there is a concept on demand planning where you can do the realignment or interchangeability thing, where iPhone 14 can capture the history from so iPhone 15 can capture the history from iPhone 14, its predecessor. So that would at least give him some history, correct? This is clear, right? Or okay.
Yes.
So you introduce iPhone 15 here, and in the demand planning module, which is doing your forecasting for next 2 years, because for next 2 years, I don't have any sales order. So I have to only work on forecasting. So say in this case, I have chosen IBP module for forecasting. So in IBP, I would pick up the previous predecessor of this software, predecessor of this phone, pick up the sales history and generate a forecast here. Fine. I've got a forecast.
Yes.
At the same time, there are two other possibilities of demand, and we will see how to create and so on there, correct? So there is something called as customer independent requirement and plan independent requirement. So these are some sort of forecast only. These are actually some sort of rough forecast that are created in ECC. Okay, so these are, I would say in a simple language, I would say these are predecessors of sales orders. You would convert that PIR into a sales order subsequently and so on. But more of it is coming in the module 2. But for now, there could be three type of requirements. Okay, customer independent requirement could be like, okay, I know that Chroma in India is going to put up this and this order, or you just talk to Chroma and tell them, okay, how much do you expect me to send? So they already tell you 200,000 is my order for next year. Okay, so you put that as a customer independent requirement already here. This is not an actual sales order. You are not going to do goods issue against it yet, but this is just a CIR. Similarly, plant independent requirement. So you, based on your judgment or your sales guys inputs, you know that this customer is need this thing, would need this much, and that customer would need that much, and so on. So that sort of plan independent requirements can come in. So there could be these three type of requirements. Okay, on top of that, one additional part, in case the order, in case the phone was already live in the market, so you will also have some sales orders, correct?
Yes.
Because if something is already live, you would get sales orders. So all these things that I'm talking about are types of demands: forecast, PIR, CIR, or sales order. All these are types of demands that would come. Okay, so now you gather, capture all of them for next 2 years of horizon, or 3 years of horizon, or 1 year, depending upon your client, and I will explain you the horizons very soon. So all those things go into any one of these ERP tool. Okay, what level of complexity you need, you would select the tool. If you don't need too many complications, like if you just want to do the material requirement planning on a very simple basis, you would use ECC or S4HANA based MRP, correct?
Yes.
If you want additional complications that you know and faster processing capability, you would go to APO SNP, and because this is anyways getting outdated, then you would go for IBP. So this guy would do what? This guy would do a mid to long term planning for you. Now, these are important words. mid to long term planning. So this planning would be for roughly 2 years horizon. Okay, starting from say September 23 to September 25. I planned it out. Correct. Mid to long term. Okay, I will talk about what mid to long term is and what short term is on Excel very soon after this. But for now, this is doing a planning. Okay, but this plan which it is planning now from mid to long term, it would sometime come into short term. Correct, because say today I am in July. Correct, I am already doing
Yes.
an advanced planning, but that September month, what is being planned by any of these modules, it would be rolled over to today. Correct, because I would sometime go into September. Correct, where I will actually start rolling out the phone in the market. So that would become a short term. So you would pass on the mid to long term results for first 2 months to the short term planning called PPDS. Okay,
Yes.
the rollover happens. This is coming on Excel also for you. So the moment it comes to PPDS, you would just convert the plan orders coming from the mid to long term planning engine to short term planning. Okay, those orders will not be touched by these plannings later on because you have converted them to a short term production orders and so on, right? So it is like fixing the plan orders or converting them to plan to production orders and so on. So they are here. So once this is there, this is your entry point to PPDS, like production planning and detail scheduling. So as I was telling before some time, production planning and detail scheduling is more of a execution side of engine, correct? So execution means you would need more granular data. This is more close to reality. You have to take influence from your shifts of manufacturing, your machine breakdowns and so on. So you would convert those orders to production planning orders, like by order conversion or by running the production planning heuristic. Okay, that would give you the capacity and component planning requirements. Fine, this is also similar to MRP but more advanced because it gives you to the second level possibilities in that. Once this is done, then it gives you key in the first 2 weeks I need to produce so and so orders. Then you pass on that to detail scheduling. It would just do the order sequencing, like okay, you manufacture this order today, the next order tomorrow. You cannot produce all the orders at the same time in one day, correct? So to
Yes.
the second level sequencing it would give. Once the sequencing is done, the orders are published to ECC, and from ECC or S4, and then from there it goes into a MES system, which is manufacturing execution system. Okay, because by the time order appears here after sequencing, it is already converted to a production order or a process order. Already it is available on the shop floor. So the moment it goes to shop floor, you just do some technical release of that order or so, and then it goes to a MES, a different tool. MES is like some tool that is talking to the machine that okay, this machine is producing this much order. So on then and there, this guy would do the real goods receipt of as and when every operation of the order completes, right? So this is a typical cycle, typical flow of how an order would get into from demand to execution. Yeah, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, see, you might feel that okay, this could be a repetition, or again I may be repeating few things again because I want to now explain you one important concept which is called these horizons. Okay, but then this concept should be very familiar in your mind as a supply chain planning consultant. Okay, you are first of all a supply chain planning consultant, and then you are a production planning and detail scheduling expert. Okay, right. So that handshake here, that mid to long term horizon to short term horizon, what happens there actually is, in the mid to long term horizon we generally do a week level planning. Okay, very rarely you might find IVP or SNP are doing a day level planning, or sometimes there could be a possibility. So in a day, the total capacity of that day or that week, we would call it as a bucket, it would be condensed together. So what would it mean is, okay, I have got what does it mean is, okay, there is a resource, manufacturing resource, on which 10,000 pieces per day, 10,000 pieces per hour is the capacity of the resource. Okay, so in those 10,000, you might want to put all, collectively add the orders out there. So it what it would do is that, okay, one order needs to be produced of 5,000, another 3,000. So it would put both the orders together on that day itself. So those orders will have start and end time exactly same while they are in the mid to long term planning. But once you convert that to a PPDS or short term horizon and pass it through sequencing, it would do that. Okay, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. schedule the other order. Then there is a break, or then there is a setup time requirement because you are now changing the product, and then put up the other order there. So that sort of sequencing would be available here in the production planning and detail scheduling in the PPDS horizon, right? Okay. So before this, few questions. Who is not talking? Kshitij has spoken, Ankit has spoken, Manoj has spoken. Dhanashri hasn't spoken a word. Dhanashri, are you able to follow us?
Yes.
So any question you have? You suddenly go silent, Dhanashri. Any question
Yeah.
or yeah?
No, like till now it's okay.
Okay. So in your current project, you're using. You said you're working into IBP, right?
Yeah.
You have worked into IBP. So which module of IBP?
Demand.
Demand module. Okay, so you must be able to connect these dots of realignment and interchangeability and all those things, right? Okay, good. So in this case, the order is actually converted from a bucket day level to a second level sequenced order and so on, correct? And that brings us to the advantages of PPDS. And these are talking points actually. I mean, really they are advantages because I have used PPDS. So every one of them matters. But then these are talking points while you go and face a customer, right? You sit for a new prospectus. So it gives you a feasible production plan, first of all. Do you know the difference? I mean, do you know heuristic? Have you heard about the term heuristic? You must have used heuristic
Yes.
somewhere, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So what is the base definition of heuristic as an engine, as a planning engine?
As a basic understanding, it is a like algorithm which runs uh like at the particular operation if we like trigger anything in the system.
Hmm.
Like if we create a process order from APO system, then it will trigger a heuristic. So like that, it is a line of like algorithm which uses for scheduling or all the things.
Okay, that is close. So basically, the heuristic. I mean, I'm now not talking about the PPDS heuristics because that is much deeper concept. But I'm talking about just as a concept generically. You know, my main focus is you should understand the fundamentals first of all, right? So when I say when I say heuristic, it is not only a SAP proprietary. Heuristic is heuristic. It is a Greek term. Heuristic means to find the solution at each level, right? So heuristic is the simplest form of solution finding algorithm, which would go step by step in a network. Say if you're using a heuristic for finding out your material requirement planning or your supply network planning, so it would pick up the last location. It would see, okay, what are my different sources to procure this material, or if I supposed to produce it, it would just go and procure it from one source because that's what we have told it. From that source, again it would think about it. Okay, do I need to produce or procure from which source? Then it would start producing and so on, correct? So heuristic is finding solution the way it comes. So it cannot think globally. Okay, it cannot consider all the parameters across the network at once and then come up with a best solution like an optimization or other complex engine can. But heuristic is simplest form, very easy to understand, and it serves the purpose very well. So that is why it is most popular. Okay, but the concept, idea behind asking you this question is this particular part. Okay, feasible production plan. So heuristic by nature is a infeasible planning engine. Infeasible means it plans infinitely. So even if you are able to produce it on one day or not able to produce it on another day and so on, it would still be able to produce. So you can have planning outcome from heuristic in an infinite fashion, not in a finite fashion. So it would create overloads on the system, right? You agree to me?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. But then when it comes to PPDS, okay, so the plan that is created by heuristic in your IBP or in your SNP, or for say created by your PP planning heuristic also, or a MRP. MRP is finite, by the way, that's different. But any heuristic that I said earlier, that would be infinite plan. So the PPDS scheduling will also use some sort of heuristics, advanced heuristic, which are actually enabled to create a feasible plan. So this is a finite plan. By finite plan, I mean that here I am saying that this order and this order are starting and ending at the same time. I am, because it's a bucket planning, I would start and end at the same time. But then practically it is not possible. On one single machine, you cannot have two orders. So it would just sequence the order in this fashion in that day. Okay. And this is what we call as feasibility, because it would just try to avoid the overloads on the system on the day. So the outcome of PPDS scheduling is the feasible production plan, more achievable production plan. It would do a machine scheduling optimization, right? Why it is so? Because you can sequence a particular thing. If you go in deeper PPDS, then you can also decide. Take an example. You have got, say, 4 colors to be manufactured on one single machine, one single die, whatever. Okay. So if you go from red color to white color suddenly, then you have to spend a lot of time in cleaning the machine, correct? Because red color would have left bigger impact on the machine, and you are now going to produce white color, so you have to spend a lot of time. So that's what that lot of time spending is called as setup time. So you have to set up the machine so that it produces white color later. So in this case, red to white is huge time spending in cleaning deeper so that it doesn't leave a stain. Whereas if you go from white to red, it is better, because lighter to darker is lesser time spending. It is easy to clean white. Similarly, go white to red to green, it's better, but green to white to red, if you do this kind of sequencing, then that's a disaster, because you would be spending a lot of time in cleaning things, correct? So all those sequencing, like which order to which order to which order you should go, that sort of optimized sequencing and scheduling can be achieved with PPDS. It ensures to have on-time delivery for sure, correct? Because in advance, if you plan for detailed scheduling for 3 weeks already, okay, so you would already know that, okay, boss, I have some order 2 weeks down the line. The order that I'm producing, the production order that I'm producing for that plan order, I won't be able to achieve. So I will have to increase my capacity so that I am able to fulfill that on-time delivery. So it helps in on-time delivery. Higher throughput, of course, because you can do in a most optimized sequence. So you reduce your setup times. So your outcome is going to be very high. Correct? Smooth operations
In
as shop
this,
floor. Yeah. Question?
no, no, no.
Yeah. Okay. So smooth operations at shop floor for sure, because the shop floor guys, what they do is just pick up every day. If you have a greatest system implemented, then they would come down here. The MES guy, who is the execution guy, he would just pick up the PPT scheduling board printout and go and just tell that, okay, from this time to this time I have to produce this operation, then the next operation. Or there will be a bigger screen, a very big screen, uh, directly coming out of the scheduling board to the shop floor. So the guys will just go and refer to that screen and see, okay, from time to time I need to produce so and so. So that is why it gives you a lot of opportunity to do very smooth operations at the shop floor. You can do order prioritization also. We'll see the prioritization scheduling heuristics. Block planning is something possible with PPDS. So as a concept, block planning is if you want to reserve a particular resource for a particular sort of order, say all the red color items, if you have the characteristic of red assigned to the product, then all the red color items, so that scheduling board or the PPDS scheduling would just reserve that resource for that. Because say for example, you have a high priority mark on some products, okay, so you assign that as a characteristic to those 10 products. So scheduling while executed automatically would block that resource for that characteristic based products. Okay. So block planning is a very good concept. I would like you to note these keywords down somewhere so that you read much deeper about it. Okay. I can explain you the concept. I'll show you how it is done and so on, but that itself is a bigger configuration. So in case we cannot go to that depth, okay, so read about it, because this would be your differentiators from other PPDS guys. You can get alerts, overload, underload alerts, and so on. And then fewer setups. Of course, it connects to the optimization part because you can avoid doing lesser setup times and so on, right? So these are your talking points while you go to the PPDS. How do you say? Any client who is a prospectus for you. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, Anil, before we move ahead, I just had one question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so this machine scheduling optimization, right? Like you said, I mean, if you have like different variants of colors, so
Mhm.
like how would be the setup? Like will it be through the like CDP in the PPDS itself? Characteristic dependent planning will be there, right? So with that, are we going to achieve that, or like how the system will, I mean,
So
decide
see
that?
that no, that
Mhm.
is achieved with a different master data setup called as setup group, setup matrices, matrices. How do we call it?
Ah,
Matrix
okay.
and so right. So
Okay, okay,
that's
okay.
yeah. So the different characteristics that I said, it belongs to the block planning, because just
Okay.
remind me when we come to the resource, I will show you where exactly to maintain the data and so on for block planning. But as a concept, what it does is it would reserve the block for a particular characteristic of products, right? But the
Right,
other
right.
thing that I
Yeah.
said is a setup matrix and all. That is a setup matrix optimization.
I think we'll be covering the setup matrix as well, right?
That yeah, I will touch upon that also. So we'll be doing a heuristic based planning throughout, but I will cover up. So keep giving me this feedback from time to time in case something additional is required and so on. I would
Sure,
I would make sure that you understand that. Okay.
sure, sure. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So with this, actually, we have kind of completed the introduction and we are ready to go for, understanding the master data and so on. Okay. But before we go in there, one important part that I want you to understand is different horizons that are there in a supply chain planning. Okay. I have a request. So in case you feel that you know something, all of you, okay, not because I have to think from everyone's perspective, right? So in case you think that okay, you know this in much detail, all of you can just pinpoint. Okay, you can say so. That's not a problem because we want to save time on something that is already known. And why this statement is because all of us are from supply chain background, right? But in case you don't know to the greater detail, it is fine to spend 15 minutes and you should know the different horizons. Okay. So now I'm going to explain to you different horizons that are there in a supply chain planning. Okay. Horizons like these things, right? When does this thing happen? When does the other thing happen? And so on. Okay. So keep giving verbal feedback, please. Yes, no, something like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes, yes. Yes, Anil.
Okay. Right. So
And
basically,
just to proceed further, like
yeah.
there would be like slides on basic building blocks of PPDS as well. Like, will you be covering it later, or like how
So
it is?
can you give an example? What
No,
is it like basic building?
like it could be. I mean, the basics of PPDS. I mean, in terms of planning and like
Absolutely.
how, yeah.
See, unit 3 and 4 is totally dedicated to that. See, the things that I'm talking about is just the introduction yet. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
It would get more and more interesting. It may be less interesting in the beginning for the next sessions also because we would be setting up master data, and this
Okay.
usually master data we don't do. I mean, this is not a manual thing to be done by a consultant. Usually master data is already there or business users are setting up. But
Okay.
my take is that you get involved into setting up master data yourself at least once, then you can effectively communicate to business users. So now see, the theory part is almost getting over. Now we are getting into practical where you would know about all master data, and then you would know about the basic settings. How do you set up the PPDS? How do you set up the integration of it? What are the global settings? What are the heuristic profiles? What are different overall profiles? How do you run the job? How do you go into what is the PPM PDS, and how do you influence all those things? So now it would get into more closer to PPDS, right?
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
what you wanted to communicate, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So please, I mean, I should be very clear. Even if I am mostly on the slides by now, this is only for the first session. Okay. Next session onwards, you will have slides, of course, but we don't want to check the slide and then go into system. So we will prefer to go in the system directly next time
Yes,
onwards,
yes.
because yeah. And I clarified in the beginning only that your fundamentals should be utmost strong. Okay. And I'll be asking you these questions in the surprise test also, because my purpose is not only to make you a technical consultant, okay, but make you fully aware about all these things, right? You understand PPDS scheduling, as well as you are able to put up the requirements, face the customer, new prospectors, right? So it may not be a new prospect customer, but your existing customer also. You should always think it from his perspective, that what he requires. Then and then your solutions would make sense. Okay. Uske liye, I mean, for that purpose, you should know all the details and fundamentals. Okay. So from the theory perspective, the last section, or the introduction perspective, the last part of what are different horizons a supply chain planning works. Okay. Yeah. So I am going to plot this like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and so on. Okay. Or rather, to do that, I need to make it small little bit. This is clear to, this is readable to you, right? Even if I'm reducing the font.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Week 1 and week 2, why capital? Week 1 and week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. So I would say, and week 6. Okay. And after that, I'll just go into month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. Say it is a 12 months of horizon that I am going to plan. Okay. Let me separate this out. Okay. So typical supply chain planning project would be somewhere in this duration. Okay. 12 months of horizon. It could be 12, 24 months, 36 months, and so on. There is no restriction of doing. Okay. So I would just include that Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Okay. So this becomes your 1 year. Then this becomes your second year, and the third year maybe I will make it as total similar quarter only. So let's say we have 3 years of planning horizon. Okay. So when we say demand forecasting, we generally do demand forecasting for the entire full horizon. Correct? Anybody has a different view?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. You may be using any other tool. Okay, no problem about it. But you would do demand forecasting for the entire 24, 36 months or so horizon. Okay. On top of that, what do we call these horizons as? Okay, first of all, my bad, I should have taken that first. Okay. So basically, first 2 weeks we would usually call as execution horizon. Usually, okay, and this is a very typical thing. Okay, it may not be 100% as it is. Some people may be calling 1 month as a execution horizon and so on. So typically in this scenario, we have got first 2 weeks as execution horizon, where your PPDS would come into picture. Okay. Then from week 3 till your all through the horizon is your, how do you call it, as your planning horizon. Okay. Okay. So basically 2 weeks you would do the execution, and next whatever is the horizon you would do the planning. Okay. So in a supply, these are the, I mean, these terminologies are from your supply planning engine perspective. Okay. But then in general, from supply chain as a concept perspective, first 2 weeks are called as operational horizon. Then next 1 year, perhaps you would call as tactical planning horizon. And then from 1 year onwards till next 2 years, you would call as strategic horizon. Do you have an idea about what I'm talking about, or you have a differing view about it? Any comment?
No, Anil, I think it would be better to have an understanding, like what is the difference actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a higher level, like strategic means long term, tactical means mid term, and operation is like day to day.
Perfect. Yes. So that is the conversion of the definition. Okay. But then what happens in every horizon, and what sort of planning engine is used in some sort of horizon? That's what I want to tell you. Okay. So first of all, 2 weeks is the operational horizon where all the executions are happening, and that is why your execution software is coming into game. There will be MES and other softwares on top. I'm not going into that detail. Just the supply chain planning softwares. Okay. So in the first 2 weeks, orders. Okay, thinking from a production perspective, because we are focusing on the PPDS module or a production module. So the orders here in the execution horizon would be production orders or process orders. Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So the orders in the first 2 weeks horizon is going to be production order or process order only. Okay. This is the horizon where you don't do the planning. The planning is already done and the planning has already fed the input here. Okay. Because that goes in a sequence, right? So when week 3 was planned, when the week 3 becomes week 2, the planning doesn't happen on it on anymore, but the execution happens. So the week 3 plan order gets converted into a production order when it enters into week 2, and then the PPDS scheduling and MES play their role. Fine. Okay.
Yes.
But okay. So then when it comes to your next horizon, which is called as planning horizon. Okay. So the planning would be happening from week 3 onwards till quarter 4 of 2 years. So for next 2 years, you would be doing the next 3 years, you would be doing the planning. Correct. So what it means is in this planning horizon, demand planning is generating its forecast. And then supply planning or IBP or any engine that the few types of plannings that we spoke about, they are working day and night and creating the plan orders. Okay, so this would be created up to the next few months, few years. Fine, but why do we do that? Why so much long plan order creation and forecasting is required? First thing, the forecasting the sales orders that are available in the execution horizon cannot be available in the future horizon, because you do not expect your customers to give sales order already 6 months ahead, right? It is possible that some customers may be giving you, in case your lead time of transportation is very long, say you take 4 months to deliver, 4 months to produce. Okay, so in that case he would give you a sales order at least 8 months in advance, correct? So that sales order would be somewhere here. That's a different case. Okay, but usually sales orders arrive just in time, usually. Okay, and that just in time or whatever it is, that we would again be talking in this section. If you go to this unit number 2, where make to stock, make to order scenarios are explained, I'll be talking about it there, no in detail. But in general, okay, this is a very typical explanation. So in general, the sales order is not expected to be arriving so early in advance. So sales order we would expect here, but not always. Sometimes if you have good relation with the customer, he would be giving you some sales orders that I want some delivery of the material in month 4, I want some delivery here. So it is quite possible. So that's not a generic one. But in this case, sales orders are here, so production orders are there, plan orders are available here, correct? So in these plan orders also, you're creating these plan orders based on your forecast, because last year you had some sales history, you have generated the forecast, so you already know the plan order. Okay, so now in this case, what happens is for the first year, up to 12 months, the customer uses it at tactical planning horizon. Why? Because what it does is, okay, I have got some heavy forecast somewhere in the month 8. He would look at that already now. So the forecast is super heavy, but he would be able to see the capacity shortage there, because okay, month 8 I am not able to produce, but I am already seeing a forecast, and the forecast is 10 times my production capacity. So that guy who is your supply planner, he would already spread the forecast in the backward month, so that he keeps producing year, so that he finishes production or accumulates that much supply by month 8, so that he, when the actual sales order arrive, he would be able to ship to him. Fine. Because the utmost necessity for any supply chain planning is service level. That is how fast you are servicing to the customer. The moment he puts an order, you need to send him immediately. This is the game changer, right? Amazon brought in the 1 day delivery thing, and then it became the market leader. Correct. You order and you want it immediately. In US they are delivering with drone, so I'm talking at the retail customer level. Okay, this is at the wholesale customer level, in fact, so this is at much bigger level. But the retail customers also, people are doing that, single day delivery. So what they do it, they keep the warehouse very close to you, right? You wherever, whichever city you are in, you place the order, and at many times they deliver you next day or on the same day. It's possible. So that's what is called as having the greatest service level possible. Service level is like how fast you are able to service to the customer. And for that purpose, this tactical horizon comes into play, because he would already have a forecast of month end. He would know that, so he would already start planning it somewhere from month 1 to month 8, so that he has sufficient stock and he fulfills it when the actual sales order arrives, right? So this is what we call as tactical horizon. This is the main job role of a planner, the supply planner, who would be doing all these things. Any doubt? Or is this tangential, or is clear?
Yes, Anil, it's clear. Pretty.
Okay. So in this case, the supply planner would be playing his role. Okay, but not always 12 months is tactical. Sometimes people just want to, that's why I keep it as week 3 to 6. So they want to take this action only for this 4 weeks, because they have very shorter lead time, right? Even if the sales order arrives in week 6, he would be able to accommodate that in the previous 3 weeks, right? If the sudden sales order comes. So sometimes customers just keep this 4 weeks as tactical horizon. Sometimes they keep 6 months as tactical horizon. Here I am considering 12 months as tactical horizon, because tactical means whenever they go into supply chain planning, they would consider the alerts of this much horizon and take action on top of it in their SNOP meetings. Third stage. Now my planning is not stopping from next 2 years also after first year, right? Quarter 1 to quarter 4. But these are the places where I am not going to consider the individual month sales order or individual month's forecast and so on, because this one they call it as a strategic horizon. Why? Because they consider the accumulative demand supply picture for the entire quarter. Usually all the high level executives, top executives of the companies look at that. They have a graphs plotted. They would look at these graphs and they would see that, okay, in quarter 4 I am seeing that the iPhone 15 that I'm going to launch, it will have a sudden spike from India. You would already see that here, correct? Because there will be the forecast available from previous year, from the predecessor. So he would already see there is sudden spike here. But the supply for this spike, I am able to fulfill in quarter 2 of that year, next year. Why? Because I do not have sufficient stock here. And why that is so? Because even if I do the reverse planning, the warehouse is available in China, and Chinese government, the custom rules take place, and they ask us to delay the deliveries by 1 quarter because of the rivalry and so on and so on. So they would think that, okay, I am producing somewhere in Indonesia, I want to sell in India, but it goes via China suppliers and blah blah blah. So in that case, they would do some strategic decisions that, okay, boss, if that is the case and India is a bigger market, let us create a manufacturing facility in India so that I am able to fulfill this already in quarter 4 of 2024. You got that?
Yes.
not only manufacturing facility. These are strategic decisions, okay, because you are looking at the region level, entire region, entire quarter, okay, what is happening. So okay, India being the great market, even if they are producing in US, they would create a warehouse in India, right? So that is a very strategic decision that they are able to take. So that is why the strategic horizon comes into play. A real life example to would be again the same Amazon thing. Amazon did the strategic planning and they saw that, okay, say Mumbai is the region from where I get the most orders for so and so products. So what they do, that those products which are highest selling in Mumbai, okay, they create a local warehouse in Mumbai. So already they ship a bigger chunk. So instead of their central warehouse is in Calcutta, Amazon or Flipkart. Okay. So if that particular product they start shipping per customer from Calcutta to Mumbai, then they would lose on two things. First is the transportation for every product they will have to bear every time the order comes. And second thing is the customer will not be satisfied because the Mumbai guy will have to wait for 3 days, 4 days to get the order. But now they already have seen in the strategic planning that, okay, this product comes so frequently from the orders come from Mumbai. So they created a warehouse in Mumbai, right? Local warehouse, and they ship that product in the bulk in one truck at a time, okay, for the entire month. And that's what is called as the strategic planning. So this involves some sort of investment from the company, and that is why the responsibility for strategic planning is on the higher executives, okay, whereas the tactical horizon guy is not making a decision like, okay, warehouse kholna hai ki nahi, ya kahin pe I need to create some sort of plant or not. So he is able to spread the demands or increase the capacity, or talk to the production planners, talk to the network planners, talk to his managers and so on. Okay, so yes, all these things are done in the tactical horizon. But the main part that we are going to focus on is the operational horizon for PPDS. So what happens here is strategic planner guy he did his planning in Q2, he created an additional warehouse. So the moment the warehouse got created, it would be created in system also, so that we are able to fulfill or do the planning at that warehouse also. So that way he would be able to see that, okay, I'm sufficiently able to fulfill. Now this quarter two subsequently comes into month 12. Okay, because it is rollover happening every day, we go to the next day, right? So the whatever planning was done, and by the way, this planning is done either every week or every day depending upon your customers. When it was APO world, then they used to do the planning every week because APO takes very long time to do the planning and it's a cumbersome process. But since IBP came into picture, these plannings have started happening every day because IBP is a faster, very faster guy, correct? Dhanasri, you can endorse me on this if you use this sort of planning. But these plannings are happening every day. Okay. But whenever, I mean, as per the last planning available from last month, when it enters into month 12, again in month 12, forecast will not change drastically. So he would see that, okay, even if I have got a warehouse, I still get some overload alerts because the forecast is too high. Then this guy with the tactical planning, a planner would start working on that and it would spread it so that by the time this plan enters into these 4 weeks or say week 3 and week 4, it is already a smooth plan because a lot of people have worked on it for last couple of months, correct? From Q3 or Q4 till this week 3 or week 2, there is a lot of time, almost 2 years. So the moment the rollover happens, when the plan comes near to the execution, it is already converted into the smoothest plan ever. So when it sorry, when it enters into PPDS horizon, by that time the PPDS guy doesn't have to think about quantity. The production planner who is sitting here, he doesn't have to look at the quantity. What he has to look at is how efficiently I can fit in those orders into the schedule. So he is not actually concerned about whether it can be produced or not and so on, because that part is taken care of by these guys already. He is more concerned about, okay, how can I produce, how can I create a most throughput out of it. So what it means is he has got 10 orders. Now I need to sequence them in the most efficient manner, reduce the cost of manufacturing. Okay, if there are two resources or labors not available, still I am able to accommodate. If the machine breaks down, still I am able to accommodate. How do I avoid extra setup money and setup times and so on, so that I can even produce more than expected, not less than expected. So here, if he says 100 and he is able to produce only 80, then that creates a 80% throughput, and that has impact on your entire supply chain. Why? Because in this horizon, you may be getting 100 demand. Okay, against 100 demand when it was here, you planned for 100 plan order, but when you actually produce, that is only 80. So that 20 demand is not fulfilled, and that is creating supply chain problem. And this is the reason that we have to do the entire end-to-end planning. Because in the old days, what used to happen is, yeah, 100, this was say 120 originally, okay, nobody was doing this tactical planning and so on. So this 120 was entering into this short term horizon. But in the short term, we would ask him to produce 120 and he would actually produce 80. So there was a 40 gap, right? And that 40 gap was carry forwarded all across the horizon. So now what we do is, when it was into tactical horizon, it was 120, but by the time it moved here and here and it came to week 3, it was 100. Okay, but this guy would be able to produce only 80. Okay, so what is this? Still there is a possibility of not 80 but maybe 95, because there could be a sudden breakdown and so on. So the capacities that are used for PPDS and that are used for this next horizons, they have a slight difference. So we already operate based on 95% capacity. Okay, so production planner would be using the full capacity, but when it comes to the next horizon, it is actually converted to 95% of what is available. So that 5% gap is placed just to accommodate any sudden changes or sudden breakdowns and so on. Okay, and when we create the resources, I will tell you what I am talking about. But this is, and the production planning is 100% capacity, but when it comes to planning orders or planning horizons, we say it is a 95% capacity. So that is why all these things starting from week 3 onwards till quarter 4, we call as rough cut capacity planning, RCCP. So this is a new concept, very old concept, but probably new to you. We call it as RCCP, rough cut capacity planning. Okay, this is execution and this is RCCP. Fine. Okay, any
Yeah.
question on
Yeah.
the horizons or anything that I should explain? Please shoot your doubts. Otherwise, we are only 4 guys, so I will have to pinpoint the names to ask the questions.
No, Nil.
No, from my side.
Hmm. Okay.
Nil, which one was the rough cut and which one? Can you just
Yeah. Okay. So
and
this is the,
yeah,
yeah.
last one.
Okay. So this is the execution horizon. Okay, that we said anyway, right? Rather, I'll just, this is the execution horizon, first 2 weeks, and the next one, week 3 onwards till whatever horizon we call as RCCP horizon, right?
Okay, rough cut capacity. Okay.
Rough cut capacity planning. I mean, why that is so is in general. Okay, say I am producing iPhone 15. Okay, this is my product. Okay, now for iPhone 15 production from in week 1 as well as in Q4, this is going to be one single resource. For example, right, the assembly resource is one robot. Okay, he has one capacity. The robot has a capacity of how much? The robot has capacity of 100 iPhones in a day, for example. Okay, 100 iPhones in a day. Fine. So this becomes his capacity. Now what we do usually is the execution horizon and the planning horizon, or the RCCP horizon. Both of them refer to same robot as a resource. We would create it as a master data resource in S4, and that would get translated to whether it is an execution system or a planning system. So IBP will have the same and PPDS will have the same. Okay, as an example. So
Okay.
if I one single resource, okay, but if the IBP will create that resource. So see, there are 3 things: S4 resource, IBP resource, and PPDS resource. So this guy S4 resource gets created as IBP resource as well as PPDS resource, because they are the separate systems, correct, or separate tools. So that is why we do the integration and convert it to respective resources. So in
Okay.
S4, he has capacity of 100 per day, 100 iPhones per day. Okay. So in S4, the resource is able to produce 100 per day. Okay, usually we keep S4 and PPDS exactly same, because S4 we maintain the actual, even the PPDS we have to maintain the actual, because that is what it is doing the manufacturing. Okay, so the production order that are created in the execution would be considering 100 per day, right? But when we transfer this resource to this planning horizon or to this rough cut capacity planning horizon, the capacity we send with some sort of efficiency rate. So we say 95% efficiency rate. So 100's 95% would be 95 per day. So this horizon in its entirely will be doing the planning based on the resource capacity as 95 per day. Okay. So I am now putting 100 plan order here. Okay. So in one day, if the resource is producing 95 and if the order is 100, then it would go from one day to the next day. Correct. In this horizon. You follow
Yes.
me, right?
Yes. Yes.
But still, since it is a weekly planning, it would show in the same week. We are not doing day level planning here. Okay, in my case, we might be doing day level also. That's fine. But then this 100 quantity in this week would be reflected in the same week. When this order enters into this particular week number 2, right? So this becomes now day. Actually, I should have marked it as day, but there was lesser space. So day 1, day 2, day 1 up to day 14 I would call. Okay, because this is day 1 to 7 and day 2 to day 8 to day 14. In 1 week there are 7 days or 5 days working days and so on. So when this 100 enters here, it gets converted to a PPDS order, and in PPDS order the actual capacity is 100 per day. Okay, whereas in on that day how much this guy would be producing is only 95, because I indicated the IBP resource to produce 95 per day. I am operating with this frequency, with this efficiency. So the PPDS will have to actually produce only 95 on that day and 5 next day. So we keep this sort of efficiency margin between the resource capacity of PPDS and resource capacity of rough cut planning, just to accommodate that. Okay, I cannot operate with 100% in PPDS because there could be resource issues, light electricity issue, water issue, machine breakdown issue, and so on. So this sort of 5%, 2% as per your customer, that margin is always kept. And whether it is planning system or it is actually somebody doing the planning manually, this sort of margin is always kept. Okay,
Okay.
so the concept is clear, right?
Yes.
Efficiency of the resource concept.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So any other question?
No, then you're good.
Okay, I have to ask someone, but some question, because I need this feedback whether people have understood, and who is not talking at all is Dhanashri so far. Dhanashri, explain tactical horizon. What happens in tactical horizon here? The way you understood. Layman's language doesn't matter, but the concept should be clear to you. Yeah, this one, tactical horizon between week 3 to month 12. Now, Dhanashri?
Yes.
Hmm. Or else, okay, just explain us the difference between operational, tactical, and strategic horizon. In one single sentence is enough. Or I'll tell you one more question. If you are not able to capture all those dots yet, in your current project, what are these horizons typically in your current project? You may not have strategic horizon, by the way, in the current project, and I have to talk about it. But you will definitely have operational and tactical horizon, irrespective of the tool that is being used. Can anybody tell me what are these horizons in your current project? All of you are from the same project.
So like this operation horizon is if we are talking about the APO, so it is PPDS horizon, correct?
That's right.
It with yes, so it varies from like product to product, but we have like around 15 days to 30 days, 28 days.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great point. It varies from product to product. So because these horizons are maintained at location product level, now getting into technical part, they can be different per product, and it is quite possible. Okay, and I'll tell you one important concept here. Why they have to be product to product? this production order horizon. Why they should vary from product to product? So see, every product has some sort of manufacturing lead time, correct? The product takes 1 day till 10 days, okay, for example. Or the product has the total lead time also, plant delivery time of the product can also vary. Say for example, the product needs some raw materials which needs the production and so on and so on. So considering all those things, whenever the plan order of the product enters into this week number 14, okay, say the product's plan order was somewhere in week 3, and when it enters into week number 14, you would be converting the plan order to production order, correct?
Yes.
So before you convert any plan order to production order, all the prerequisites for that order should be available. Like the raw material should be available. Ideally, you should have received the sales order for that product, correct? So all the planning things should be already available as firm orders for that, right? Raw material
Yes.
available as a stock or at a purchase order, and so on and so on. So sometimes the purchase order would be taking 10 weeks for the product. 10 weeks is too long, maybe 4 weeks for the product, correct? Or the sales order takes time and it arrives 4 weeks in advance, and so on. So depending upon the combination of all those things, which are the firming inputs for the order, you would keep the horizon little longer for that product, correct? Because
Yes.
you need sufficient time to do that. So that's why the horizons can be different, right?
Yeah.
And then talking about the other side, so on the location product master that we would see, we maintain this horizon as a PPDS horizon on the location product. The other horizons are also maintained. Since you are into APO, then the tactical horizon is maintained as SNP horizon. Have you seen that? SNP horizon.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Strategic may not be. But then talking about tools here, okay, so yeah, I have already noted. So execution is from PPDS. Focusing on SAP side, execution is from PPDS, but you can have Kinaxis also. Kinaxis is also doing good for production planning, detail scheduling. Then when it comes to this tactical horizon, okay, so the tactical horizon can be planned with what? Tactical horizon can be planned with either SNP or IBP. Okay, both the things can be used. There can be, you can use MRP also, ERP tool, any other ERP tool, but I am not focusing there because we are now talking about advanced planning algorithms. So both of them are advanced planning, right? Advanced means some additional features available on top of MRP. Fine, but some people sometimes use S4 MRP also, because now with S4 side also they have created something called as advanced MRP that also plays a significant role sometimes. Okay, so pay attention. You may come across some project where they will be using a S4 based advanced MRP. Let me, because the name itself
is it
yeah,
MRP live? Is it?
exactly, advanced
Oh,
MRP is MRP live.
okay.
The previous MRP used to be classical MRP,
Classical
right?
MRP. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So MRP live also has better features available. Okay. And then when it comes to the tactical strategic planning horizon, then SNP cannot be used there. Neither MRP can be used there, because you cannot do planning of such a vast part. And then these guys also do some sort of quick simulations and so on. So that is the marketing concept for that is the marketing idea for SAP also, that you have to do tactical strategic planning with IBP sort of engine. In fact, that was a differentiator of IBP on top of other engines, that it is also useful to do strategic planning. Correct. So I don't place SNP etc. for doing a strategic planning, and that's why SNP planning you would only see for 1 month, 1.5, 1 year, 1.5 years, and so on. Usually, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So and you can take
Anil,
if you yeah.
yeah, just one question, please.
Sure.
Like there could be some silly questions from my side, so I just want to clear my, like small doubts. Like you have talked about firming of the plan orders, right? So can you
Yeah.
just throw some light on firming, like what exactly firming means, and like how should we understand it?
So okay, I mean there is a whole lot of section dedicated to that. Okay,
Okay,
and it
okay,
would make
okay.
total sense if I explain to you practically. So I would refrain from the question for now, but it is there. You see, I am visiting
Okay.
it here, course agenda. So see, firming
Oh,
section
okay.
is there.
Forming.
Correct. So don't worry.
Yes.
All the, I mean,
Oh,
I am pretty sure what sort of doubts are coming in your mind, but I'm going in a logical way, right? concepts first, then master data, then the configuration, integration configuration, and then planning and scheduling. So it comes as part of planning for sure. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, then fine. We can cover. Yeah, you can cover it. Thank you.
At the end of all the sessions are done, I'll send you this Excel also, just for you to keep a track in case, because for me it helps. If I've gone through it with somebody, if I just look at it once, then I immediately remember everything that has been discussed there. So the colors have some kind of mind mapping all the time, so they help. Okay, so I'll send you that, but if you want to keep it for your notes, you can take screenshots from time to time. That's no worries. Okay, all right. So now let's move on to the next part of the training. Now we are actually slowly starting with the master data. Okay.
Yes.
So basically, what does PPDS do? So it picks up all these sets of master data and the pointers like dates and so on, and then it converts into a feasible, efficient production plan. Okay, that's very simple. Okay, I mean what it takes is I am going to produce something, correct? So for production, before all these things also, what you would need is location, product, etc. But from production perspective, you would need a BOM and routing and a production version. You are aware about it or not yet? BOM routing production version. That doesn't matter anyway. We have to cover that up because that's the most important building block for PPDS scheduling planning. So you would
So
need a
for
BOM and routing. Yeah.
yeah, in concept of BOM and PDS, we are like pretty much aware.
Hmm.
Routing, I am not pretty sure, but I guess Kshitij and Manoj can like
Currently,
tell this.
we are using recipe instead of routing, Ankit. I mean, it depends on the industry actually. So
Exactly.
it
Okay.
is, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can use recipe also. That's no worries. So basically, it works like BOM plus routing slash recipe. So depending upon type of industry, if it's a process industry, you would
Yeah,
create a recipe. If it's a
recipe,
discrete industry, you would use a routing. Correct.
routing. Yes.
By the way, one question here. Okay, and that's the homework. Okay, and Dhanashree, you could not. Oh, she is gone. Okay, no mind.
Facing some network issues. I think she just yeah got thrice on
She
hold.
has joined and then I guess due to
Again,
network issue or something.
She is back. Dhanashree, can you hear us? Dhanashree, are we audible to you?
Hello.
Yeah.
Ah,
You can you hear us?
and
Okay, it seems
I
you have a
don't
network
think,
problem.
yeah,
But then see, uh, I hope you are able to follow us up, right? Because it is important that the sequence is maintained in learning. Can you could hear us right throughout the session? Only at some places you dropped, right, Dhanashree? Okay, never mind. If someone of you can talk to her later and then just make sure that she has got whatever we discussed and so on, that would be nice. Okay, or ask her to go through the recording. And now then my focus would shift from Dhanashree to who should take this question. I I have a topic to be given, and then one of you, whoever is assigning here, will have to explain it to us tomorrow.
Okay, I can do that for tomorrow.
Great. So it is Ankit. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to explain us what's the spelling? Discrete versus process industry. Okay. This
Okay.
is
Yeah.
not PPDS specific but this is generic question. Okay, from a production planning perspective. So please explain to us what is a discrete versus a process industry and what is the difference of master data between them. Okay, I'm
Okay.
asking you
Sure.
this on 19 July 23. So it is so much of benefit. It has benefited me. If I accept some challenge like here, then the concept becomes alive in me myself forever throughout my life, forever, right? I mean, once you learn
Yeah.
it yourself today, you would learn it in a so focused manner and explain to us. It will never ever go away from you. Okay, fine. So where was I? Yeah, BOM and routing. Okay. So the basic building blocks are BOM, routing slash recipe. Both these things get converted into production version. Okay. So somebody was saying that I know about BOM and PDS, but don't know about routing. But basically, you know about it already. Why? Because without BOM and routing or recipe existing at a time, there cannot be a PDS. PDS is simply the conversion of BOM plus routing slash recipe. Okay. So under the recipe or routing, we assign different resources because you need to produce on some resource, refer to the capacity of that resource. Then you have some capacity of the resource. All these things are input to PPDS. Then you have a due date, like when do you want to finish this production, correct? So you need to follow that due date also. You have to assign some scheduling rules, whether you need to go in a backward direction, forward direction, or backward forward, or on time and so on. So different rules you should see. If there are any shifts maintained for the resource, because you don't want to keep producing or scheduling the order when the shift is blank, correct? And of course the calendar, whether you want to produce on the weekend or not, on the evening after 6 and blah blah blah, correct? So these are some of the inputs for a PPDS planning engine. So the PPDS planning engine picks up that master data, considers either heuristic or optimizer based production. Optimization based PPDS scheduling I haven't seen at most of the places because it becomes too complex. Unless there is a very specific requirement, people do not go for it. So people do various types of heuristics, around 35 40 types of heuristics that are available in PPDS. We choose one of them, and then the outcome of PPDS is efficient production plan that meets, like, it is constrained by resource capacity. So it's a finite plan. You cannot have overload of the capacity. You can have that, but you will have an alert out there, correct? You have highest utilization, lower setup times, minimum stocks because it would try to fulfill it on time, try to avoid early building, and minimum work in progress, correct? Work in progress is like there is a sales order, okay, but for that sales order the plan order is work in progress. No, it is the wrong case because you cannot keep the customer waiting. So the for sales order is on 17th of July, your plan order should finish on 16th July. Do 1 day of goods receipt processing time and ship it. It's as simple as that. Okay, so that where PPDS helps us. Okay, and see, I won't go through this slide, frankly, because these are again the marketing things, and I kept it. But I spoke up a lot about it, right, in the earlier explanations also. That what does PPDS do? So keep it handy for future purposes. All right. So let us now focus on the master data side of it. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll very quickly go through multiple slides possible from here, which are relevant for the relevant. Okay, up to slide number 17. So you know the basics, and then we get into system. Okay. So basically, now I'm just keep me correcting from time to time if I should also talk about the APO side of the master data. Okay, because my more focus and intention would be how do I set up master data in S4 and bring it over to PPDS in S4. But in case you do not know about how the master data in ECC, and then how do you bring to APO via the core interface, SIF, etc. Let me, please buzz me from time to time. I will explain that part also. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, what you need for a effective planning within PPDS is the materials, the plants, okay. Here, not only plants, but you would need customers, vendors also, because this is more of a talking from a APO master data perspective. And APO would be, SNP. If there is IBP, then it is also considering the entire tactical planning horizon as well. That is why you would need customers or vendors also in case you want to go to that level of planning, right? If vendor is included, you can do the network planning for raw material procurement. If the customer is included, you can have additional note that customer is sending you actual sales order, correct? But for us as a production planning guys or PPDS guys, we do not need this customer and vendor. right? Because we are not doing a network planning. We already have a plan order. So what we need is material, a plant, and a work center or a resource. Correct. Work center or a resource is actually coming from here, the bomb routing and resources part. Okay. So how do we operate here? Is we follow certain sequence of steps. First of all, the master data is managed or set up within ECC or S4HANA the way it would get created. Usually we are not responsible for setting up any sort of data in S4, right? But here we will do that. Then we would transfer all that data. So if it is like a APO system, ECC to APO, then you would set up all those integration models and then transfer the data. Correct. If it is S4 HANA to PPDS, then you transfer, but technically you do not do the transfer because it is available in the same system. So you kind of just flag or enable any master data that yes, boss, this master data is for PPDS also. This is a basic difference of the integrations. If it is APO and ECC environment, then you literally transfer the data via core interface. Okay, queue gets generated and so on and so on. But when it comes to PPDS on S4HANA, we call it just ePPDS. Okay, ePPDS is what? Can anybody guess the meaning of word E in the PPDS? When I say PPDS on S4HANA, I call it ePPDS.
It
Can
is
anybody guess?
like yeah, like we have heard embedded word for this one.
Absolutely. It is the embedded PPDS because it is embedded. Okay, that's great. So when it comes to ePPDS, then you literally, practically, you do not transfer the data actually. I mean, you just do the enabling of the data that it is available for PPDS. Okay. Then when it comes to PPDS side, then there are some data elements which you set up in PPDS directly. Whether it is ePPDS or PPDS, you have to enhance the resource. For example, you would do some sort of shifts and shift sequences on the PPDS resourcing. Correct. So only from a resource perspective, you do some modifications. Rest of the data comes as it is. Okay. Rest of the data is basically it is held in S4 HANA and then it is straight away available. So that is where the completeness of master data is necessary. Okay, sometimes you may have to do some sort of enhancements so that the data is complete if required for your customer. Correct. Once the data is completed, you do the validation, you do the consistency check and so on. Then you do the managed capacity variants. Correct. So it goes through roughly these 4 steps that you create, then you transfer or enable it for activation, then you complete the data in um, there is something additional to the completeness actually, which I am forgetting, but let me recall. And finally, you manage the capacity variants.
Shanik,
Okay,
I have a question. Sorry. Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
From integration standpoint, I mean, like, do we need to do something in the integration models? So with for for the I mean S4 on a PPDS.
No, no, you don't have to do. It used to be the case, but with the latest upgrade, you don't have to do the integration model thing. You just need to enable every master data to be available. Let me show you that soon. Okay, we're
Okay.
going into
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. But concept here is to understand that there is a basic difference of the way integration is handled with ePPDS and with regular PPDS. Okay.
Yeah.
Then this is just a glimpse. If at all you are not able to follow it, it is okay. But glimpse is like an S4 HANA, you have materials, you create the resources or work centers and capacities. Correct. So with the materials you would create BOM, and with the resources you would create routing or recipe. The BOM and routing or recipe you would combine and create a production version. And the production version gets translated as the PDS to PPDS. Similarly, the material come as a product to PPDS and the resources come as resources to PPDS. So very powerful slide, really. If you do not know the basic ingredients, then this is an important slide. Okay. But once you do it on your own, you don't even have to look at it because it would be so embedded in your mind. Correct. Now I have a question. In MM0123, we call them as materials on S4 or in ECC. But when it comes to APO, or even PPDS, we call them as products because we do not call it as material master, we call it as product master. If you have heard about the transaction call slash SAP APO slash MAT1, that is the product. Okay. So why on planning system we call it as product, and why on the execution side we call it as material? Any idea?
No.
Any guess? No guess? It's fine actually, not expected also. It's just like a wordplay thing. So see, on ECCs, yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah, it is because like we are considering it is as a like outcome of any result in APO system. Like if we
Mhm.
consider any one product or material. So if we are producing any colors, then it is a like outcome of the whole process. But if we go to other like in ECC system, it is a like every it is a material only. Like it is a
Absolutely,
like
you're very close. You're very close. So that is an outcome of a process, right? That's why it's a product. And on top of that, generally the finished goods are the finished outcomes, right? Products. They are not raw material. Raw material you wouldn't call as product. Your product is like you assemble a couple of raw materials and you create a finished product. Correct? So in a
yes,
planning system, you are not supposed to plan all the raw materials and all the finished goods, etc. You're supposed to plan only the critical materials, because say consider the case of iPhone 15. Okay, now iPhone 15 is a product, so it's a material in ECC. I would send it as a product to PPDS. Correct, but in case all the raw materials for that product, I am not doing the scheduling for them, or okay, I am not bothered about when they are available and so on, nuts and bolts and so on and so on. So I wouldn't call them, I wouldn't send them to PPDS. iPhone probably was not a correct example. Say iPhone 15 and the box of iPhone 15. Okay, both of them are products, for example. Okay, box and iPhone 15, both of them are products to each other. Okay, so you want to do the detailed scheduling of iPhone 15. So you would send it to PPDS. Okay. But the box of iPhone 15 you wouldn't send to PPDS because you don't want to waste your scheduling resources on planning something which is available in infinite fashion. Box does not have any bottleneck. You place an order today, tomorrow you get 1,000 boxes available. It's so easy, correct? So it is like an infinite way. So there is a concept called bottleneck planning in all the planning systems. Okay, so in the bottleneck planning, we do not go for planning all the raw materials also in the planning system. We just plan the finished goods which are sitting on top of bottlenecks, right? Which have a really constraint on the capacity perspective. So the expectation is that you only send those products to PPDS and to the planning system which have bottleneck, and they are mostly the finished products. And that is why we call it product that side. And ultimately, the way you explained earlier, that's a outcome of a process. So we do not actually go to the planning or production order for raw materials to be planned and so on. So we just operate around the finished products. So that's why the concept came in earlier. Okay. But this thing is clear to you, right? Material to material, product, resource to resource, and bomb routing recipe becomes production version to the PDS, right?
yes.
Okay. All right. And now this thing is pretty much clear because you're using it. So whether it is S4HANA in ECC or S4HANA PPDS or APO PPDS, when you have a plant, customer, and vendor, all of them would go as a location in the system, and they would be called, they're differentiated with location types. Correct. I am going to run through here because I'm assuming you have seen this as part of your APO day-to-day work. And ultimately, what we need for PPDS is only plants. Correct. Still, it would arrive in PPDS as plant or location type 1001. Okay. The integration is again different. Core interface or advanced planning activation depending upon type of system you are in. The material master would be converted to product master. Work center or resource that you would create. Okay, both of you can create either of them. For recipe, you would create resources. For routing, you would create work center. They are separate master data but have practically similar information under them. So they would be transferred and created as resource master in PPDS. Then you would create a BOM routing recipe and then a production version that would be a PDS in PPDS. And then if at all you are trying to use PPDS for planning also, like network planning also, it is possible but not recommended and not done. So between two plants, like or one DC and one plant, then you would need a transportation lane also. Okay, so that transportation lane is created from any of this inherent master data called info record, contract, or scheduling agreement, so on. Okay, so any question on this data side? Yeah.
We have work center and resource both in ECC.
Yeah.
And its resources there in APO as well. Like, is there any difference?
Yes. So see, whether it is work center or resource in APO or in PPDS now, it would be called as resource only. It gets translated to resource master only. Okay. But then if the person is operating based on say production order or a routing, then they would create work center, so discrete industry. And if they are not the person, a customer, he has recipes, then he would create a resources under them. What do you have in your current project, work center or resource? Because you have got a recipe.
Yeah, resource.
Remember? Absolutely, because if it is the recipe, okay, used as a backend, then there has to be resource only. That's how it goes.
Yes. Okay.
In fact, okay, let me add that as an additional point here, okay, for your homework. So please try to see. No, I'll give it to Sal. Next guy. No. Okay. Anybody wants to volunteer for this question? So what is the difference? I mean, difference is pretty simple. The way I told, one is used for discrete industry work center, so it would be used in the routing, and resource is used in process industry, so it would be used in recipe. But if there is any difference at all, you wouldn't need more than 15 minutes to find out the answers or to clarify your concept. So anybody?
Maybe you can give it this to Ankit only, since he's taking care of that first as well, right? So it is more related to. I mean, both the points will be interrelated, right?
Yeah, they are related. If the two people read about same thing, it's not a harm actually. I mean,
I can assign it to me, no problem, since I have asked the question.
Yeah, that is Kshitiz, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Correct spelling, right?
Yes, it's right.
GSHI.
Yes, it's there.
It's fine. No problem. Yeah.
Okay. Because see, these things take only 10 to 15 minutes, but they help you to hold on. They are kind of hooks behind what has happened during the day. So I need to carry it forward.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Okay. By now, are you back, Dhanashri?
Yes.
So you are able to follow us, right? Or there is continuous internet issues?
Yeah, actually there are intermittent issues in my network.
No, but for next 10 days, can you make sure from tomorrow onwards that you
Yes.
upgrade your plan or do whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's possible to go to office, but try something like that. You just need a focused attention for next 10 working days. Okay. Next one is the location part of it, correct? And I spoke about it like plant, vendor, customer, and blah, blah, blah. Fine. So I will not spend any time. The next slides are going in details about what is the location and so on. So before going in there, okay, I want to tell you some basic concepts, okay, and they are part here. Okay, I want to tell you some basic concepts about how PPDS is activated in the system, okay, and then we go on creating the master data, okay. And each one of you, please keep your Excel handy, because you will have your own set of master data to work upon, okay. And what that master data is, and write it down. You will have a location, you will have a material, you will have one or two or three resource or work center, whatever we set up, okay, whatever is available or set up. And then we would set up a routing or recipe. We will have a production version, and you will need to show me this. Okay, I'm not going to leave you unless you show me your data preparations on your own subsequently. Okay, and then what else? Material, location, resource, recipe, routing, production version. I think that is enough for now. I'm not going into transportation lane and so on, because there is no need of complicating things. So see, what it can be that we have a plant and we have a DC, correct? And we build a transportation lane between both of them. So there will be one single material. Instead, I am dropping the DC because I'm assuming that this tactical network planning has happened and I have already entered in the execution. So I'm focusing on the plan side of it and trying to produce, trying to schedule the different plan orders that are available at the plant. So this data is sufficient for me. Anything else that you can think of? No, right?
No.
If at all we can, we will include it. That's fine. Okay. And keep this on your Excel also. As soon as you get a system access, you will need to find that out. Okay. Okay. So before we go in there, there are few settings that you need to do when it comes to, activating the PPDS system. Okay. So this is your S4HANA system. The first thing that you do is go to SPRO. I mean, this is not a daily activity or monthly. This is one-time activity. So once you go into SPRO, there is a dedicated section called Advanced Planning at the bottom. Can you see it? Can you locate it? Here it is. Okay. This advanced planning is for PPDS dedicatedly. Okay. You go inside this one and then somewhere here, basic settings. Yeah. So under basic settings, you have this option called activate advanced planning and scheduling. So you just need to double click and ensure that this is activated for your system. So as you know, SAP has started selling these softwares like business functions separately, right? So they would sell you the S4HANA, but if you don't want to purchase the PPDS part, then this option would be disabled for you. You cannot actually disable it, right? But as soon as this is available to you and you enable this, it means that now you can use all the various functionalities of PPDS for your own set. Correct? Fine.
Yeah.
This is one time thing. Second thing that you do is go and set up the settings for data transfer. Okay. So I am jumping one step ahead. These settings are not for master data, but they are for transactional data. So we will perhaps come back in here. But then you were asking me this question, right? How do I transfer data? Do I need to set up the integration models and so on? So you don't need to set up any integration model. Say you want to transfer all your, say, production orders or a stock, correct? You just need to enable it, save it, done deal. So the moment you create it in S4, for a material which is PPDS relevant, then it would immediately go to PPDS. It's as simple as that. Okay,
Okay.
fine. So these are two important settings, activation and settings. Okay, there are some other settings also like global settings and all, but we will come back to it subsequently, slowly. Okay, no need to go through it, all of them at once. Okay, so the first thing, yeah,
I
yeah,
think we have the setting in the middle master also, right? Anil?
yeah, I'm coming to that. Yeah. So
Oh,
these are
okay,
the
okay.
generic
Sorry.
settings,
Yeah,
generic
yeah,
setting. Now,
right.
what I am doing is I am going to identify some location material and all those things, and then keep sending them to PPDS. Because
Okay.
first thing is to identify some material which is relevant for me, and then I will operate upon them. Correct. So first thing is what I would do is go to SE16 and MARC table because I, see, I am a supply chain planning guy, so I don't know all the peculiarities of a material and so on, right? I mean, in the interest of time, I'm trying to select what is available already. If it is not there, of course, I'm going to set up something on my own, do some trial and error. But for you guys, I would advise that, okay, pick up the material that I would select here, make a copy of it in MM01, right? And create the separate material for yourself. I strongly advise that if you want to understand the basics. Okay. So for now, let me see if I have any material available. by tomorrow, actually, if we are able to select, okay, 11:39, right? So we should be able to finish up location and material today. Okay. So by tomorrow, you should have also selected your location and material in the backend system. Okay. So we have got 3030 material locations. Okay. So I would go for 1010 because I know that is one of the plan. Okay. We have got lots and lots of materials with some MRP type and so on. Okay. It will be little difficult to do it this way. Then what I would do is, because I did some homework earlier. Okay. So I would go and select one material, which is my FG 126. This is good for me. Okay. In the interest of time, I had chosen it, but there is no particular rule. Okay. What you can do is pick up any damn material that is available from the MARC table. For say, let us stick to one plant only, 1010. No. Sorry, my bad. Let us not stick to one plant. Otherwise, what will happen is, if I am doing a scheduling, I will disturb your thing or he will disturb my thing and so on. It is quite possible. So as far as possible, stick to 4 different plants. Okay. Stick to different plants. Okay, if not happens, doesn't matter. If you are able to, you can select one single plan, then at least we will try to stick to different resources per material, right? Your material should be different and your resources should be different for that matter, correct? Then your scheduling will not interfere with each other. Otherwise, what happens is, you go and try to schedule everything that is there at 1010. So you creating orders, I creating orders on different resources, and all of them, one guy will do the scheduling, my schedule would get disturbed and so on, correct? So better to try to stick to different plans. And let me see what are the plans, so I can allocate the plans to you here itself. Okay, so we don't have a lot of plans, by the way. We got 10 10 10 20 17 10. And I don't want you to spend time on creating a plant, although it is not a very big deal of setting up your own plant. Okay, how comfortable you are with the CCC sort of master data, like exploring something on your own? You tell me, we'll follow that rule. Either you can select one plant, different material, or you can create your own plant by copying this plant. You just have to explore how to create a plant in XK01. I am actually neutral here. That's why I'm not able to suggest you anything that do it this way or that way.
Yeah, I can go with the new plan creation. Yeah,
Fine.
no
Okay.
problem.
I'll then it is up to everyone. I am selecting
Yeah.
1010 plan. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
by tomorrow, please come up with what plant you have selected or what new plant you created. So we should have 4 tables like this here. Okay. And I will make a
Yeah.
note of them here also for me myself, and we'll update it tomorrow. Okay. 4 guys. Fine. And the material that I have selected is FG126. Okay. So please try to avoid this material, FG126. So you will have one material, two material, 5 material, doesn't matter. It is up to your appetite of setting up data. What I would do is, on this material, we'll select the bomb routing recipe and all. We'll bring it to PPDS. We will create tens of orders, plan orders, and do the scheduling after we set up the PPDS. So this is how the training would logically proceed. Okay. So you can have 2 materials or 4 materials. That's no problem. Okay. You can have one material with multiple orders on that. Then also you would be able to see the scheduling. Okay. So maybe if time permits, I would try to copy this material to FG127 and create new one for me later. But to begin with, this is the step. Okay, fine. So that's the first thing, that you have selected the plant. Okay, now, and selected the material also in my case. But the next step is to send this material to PPDS. Sorry, to the location to PPDS. Okay. Both things are selected, but to send it. So if it was the age of your regular APO based PPDS, what you would do? You would go to CFM1. Transactions are there. Okay, still you would select the plant. You would put the plant here, generate this integration model, activate this integration model, right?
Yes.
Are you by the way supporting all these generation activation jobs even now in your
Yes.
current project?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I
Yes,
do
yes, we
have
do.
it. Yes.
So but you are aware about it or any doubt on the screens generation activation part, because you are doing it every time. By chance, any doubt or it's clear?
Yeah, it's clear for CFM1 and CFM2.
So my next question in the next class would be, what is the sequence of transferring the data? This is most important part. You cannot send a material first and followed by plant later. Doesn't work that way. You have to send the plants first, then materials and so on and so on. Okay. So the sequence is important. I hope you are aware about it. Okay. So if I have to send the plant, I would just select 1010 here and generate. Okay, let me try to generate because I have never tested this whether generation is still a problem. Because we don't need it anymore now. So let me try to, hey, see the plant part is gone. Nothing is coming in. The moment I selected the material, the logical system, the plant part is gone completely. And very few items are remaining, which perhaps would need some sort of generation activation. See, everything is disabled the moment I
Oh,
selected it. Correct. Everything is
okay.
disabled.
Mhm.
Correct. But still, plant is the only thing which needs some sort of adjustment to send it to PPDS. And what that adjustment is, you will need to execute a report. Okay. So that is slash SAP APO slash create. I forget. I'm very weak in remembering the report. So this is the report, create location report, that has been provided by SAP. Okay, here you need to specify 1010, create for standard address and blah blah blah. Rest of the things, no issues to be selected. Okay. I mean, since we are working in the PPDS part, we focus only on the plant side, but the business part or shipping, receiving, they are from the network planning perspective. Correct. So if somebody, if at all wants to do the network planning also in PPDS, they would go in that direction, but we would go in here. Now I think this plant may have been already shipped to PPDS. So let's see what error comes. Or if it, okay, so the location for plant already exists in PPDS, so it just verified whether the plant is existing. And then you go to your regular transaction code call LOC3. What is it, LOC3 or LOC? Acha, SAP APO.
That's it. Three.
No, I think
Eh?
double P is there.
Is it?
Oh, fine, SAP APO.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here onwards, you would feel like your home page. This is the regular transaction. It got created as a production plant.
Sorry.
You go and display it, and all other information will be here. But at the plant, what is required is rest of the things are coming up very well, no issues. Okay. But if you go to the calendar part of it, then in case you want to follow a particular production calendar, then you need to assign that from S4 side. See, if you go to change mode, then you can assign here also, but usually we do assign from S4 side also. But while we come to the scheduling side of it, we will see with and without what happens and so on. Okay. Otherwise, I can show you something additional. Okay, very quickly. So since now the plant has been transferred, okay, we have the plant here. So what is the transaction for plant? I don't know. So I'll go to SPRO and see. I think it is T001 or XK02. It is for vendor, I guess. Yeah, it is for vendor. Anybody remembers the transaction code for changing the plant in S4? It is SPRO. Let's go in here and find. I know the table actually because we rarely have to go to do that on S4, but um, getting attributes. Plan maintenance. Let's try it here. So what I want to demonstrate quickly is integration model is not required, but the moment I will change the description of the plant there in S4, it would be updated here immediately. It doesn't take time because it's the online transfer. And in many cases, actually, it refers to the same plant. I hope it's here. Yeah. So do I have authorization or not? It doesn't allow me to change something. Okay, never mind. But I will just copy this 1710 and then try to create 1711 as a plan. Yeah, it does not allow me because this is not a transaction to create plan. This is just to extend the plan as a maintenance plan. If I want to divert out these locations, I'll come prepared next time because these are out of scope things for us. But still, E001W is the T code for plan. Anyway, I won't be able to change anything from here. Why I'm spending time unnecessarily here? We don't need to change the plan. Doesn't matter. You can figure out how to create a plan on your own. So you create a new plan and then create a material out there. But for now, what I want to demonstrate is the immediate transfer. So I'll pick up one of the material on the plan on S4 side. Okay. So let me go to MM02. Okay. And I have selected this material because I am going to base my all planning and scheduling on this material. So let me go in there. The only important views for us are MRP 1, 2, 3, 4 and advanced planning. These 5 views are most important for us because all the information that is required for planning and scheduling is available in this 4. Okay. So I'm selecting them and plant is 111010. Okay, fine. So we will go through these details later. What does MRP type and all these things mean? But first of all, I need to transfer this plan to PPDS. Okay. So the only action that you need to take is go to the advanced planning. Okay. And there is a radio button to just tick the advanced planning relevancy. And the moment you save, it is immediately available in PPDS. No need of any transaction. See this one. Okay. So initially when you create the material, this advanced planning tick is not marked. Okay. You go to the MM02 change mode, tick this mark, enter and save, and then it is immediately available to PPDS side of. Okay. One problem here. Go ahead.
Does it if MRP type is different, so does it count or
MRP time
how
doesn't
it
count.
is?
See, that's a very good question, by the way, because you are trying to connect the MRP type based filtering in your CFM1 transaction, right? You would be doing
Yes.
Yeah. So that filtering was different because as I said, planning system is to plan only the bottleneck products, not all the products. So what used to happen is you were assigning X0 as the MRP type for external planning of the materials. Usually in your project also probably you are sending X0 or maybe a custom Z type of MRP type is created. So you're just sending those materials to APO. Okay. But
Yes.
here, see, X0 is a standard MRP type coming from SAP for without MRP. So what happens here, the configuration of this MRP type itself says that this material, even if you pass on to MRP, it will not run MRP. It is an external planning material. So that don't those days are gone. Okay. Where MRP type based filtering used to happen. Here, you do not have a MRP filtering. Okay. You are just doing an advanced planning activation and immediately it is transferring. Correct. So you selectively assign the advanced planning to some materials which are only required to be planned and scheduled within PPDS. All right. However, the MRP type plays a significant role while it comes to the firming and the fixing and that concept. Correct. we spoke about it, that we will cover that in future. So the MRP type is still used for doing the auto firming and all other things, but not going into those details yet. Okay, so this is very, very relevant, but the filtering function of MRP type is gone. It doesn't do the filtering anymore. Okay, right. So even if it is PDI, I didn't mind for now. Okay, however, we'll see next time if we need to change it for the fixing part. But in the next session onwards, what we would do is everyone is supposed to have one plant and one material of your own. Do not select this one because I am owning it now, but you can select 4 of your plant materials. Fine. And then set up the advanced planning on top of it. The moment you set up, this plant is then available into your MAT1 transaction the way any other plant is available. Sorry, material is available, right? So you go in here and this is available. Technically, it refers to the same table. So because if you go to the change mode, you wouldn't be able to change anything. Okay, I am locking it. Acha, I am locking it. See the difference. I am now into MM02 somewhere, right? So it is giving me an error of you cannot go into change mode in PPDS because technically it is referring to the same transaction. Correct? See, did you understand this? That at table level, perhaps the SAP APO table is different, but in the backend, they are so well connected that if I am in the change mode in S4, it does not let me go in change mode in PPDS. Fine. So that is why the integration model things are not needed, because you are practically you are transferring, but technically you are not. Technically, you are just enabling it to be available to the other system, right? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Rest of the things we will see in here. Okay, just small change I want to show. See, the description says FIN 126 MI serial number. Now serial number 1234 I am going to put in the S4 side. Okay, and save. System is very slow. It's taking significant time. This actually saves a lot of time. The integration part taking away from PPDS, because then you can easily play around, make some change in S4, no need to generate, activate, or run Rymodini and so on. Okay. You're aware about Rymodini, correct? Or you don't know? You know Rymodini, or that program that we
No.
run, Rymodini program?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
remind me tomorrow to explain that, because it's not relevant from ePPDS perspective, but for PPDS you might need that integration model Rymodini. Okay, so
Sure.
I'll just note it down for me. Okay, so now the material is changed. Let us go to the PPDS side of it. Go back and say display. So now see the 1, 2, 3, 4 came. I need not to run anything because it technically referring to the same table in the back. Yeah. Okay. So we are almost at the end of the time. Okay. Do you have any feedback for me? Very frankly, any feedback that we had to cover up something else or something was repetitive? Because I like taking feedback and improvising next time. Because tomorrow's session would be totally focused on setting up the master data. Each one of you being in the system, you will have your location and product. So we will go ahead and find some resources, then bomb routing recipe and production version and create the PDS. Okay. So it's going to be intense. So be prepared. But anything that you think we should have improvised or cover up. Okay. So then I can drop for now and see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. IST. Okay.
Yeah, sure, Anand. Thank you.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.